Bouch, from what you saw at ice level, that 6-1 kind of thrashing there the Panthers put on the Oilers, how far of a distance did the Oilers have to travel to kind of take the next game? Because that was a beatdown, and people are talking about the ice being tilted, the series being tilted. Like, how far do these guys have to go to kind of make a statement and take Game 4?
It feels like a long way, truthfully. Just the way it went down. You understand third period. It's garbage time. You take, you try and get your licks in. I get all that, but aside from that, like, I haven't seen, like, Nugent Hopkins, to me, I haven't seen him in this series so far, and he's playing hurt. He doesn't look right. It's, they took him off the power play there in Game 3. The depth that was there in Game 1 that I was so impressed with, like Kapanen and Podkolzin and Arvidsson, not as noticeable, probably partway through Game 2, now into Game 3, and it feels like that gap is widening. It feels like Florida's, that annoyance and that ability to get underneath your skin and get you off your game, and it feels like it's growing. At least at ice level, that's what I feel like. And maybe the 2 days off is perfect for Edmonton, and they can kind of regroup, reset. But unless some other guys get going, I mean, it's going to take huge games from 97 and 29 to get this thing back to even. And they got to stay out of the box. I mean, you can't take the penalties you took in the first period. I understand the penalties were even, kind of, but the reality is, what if Edmonton has 3-1 power plays in the first period and they score and they get those guys going? They took penalties that I thought were careless penalties, and I thought it took them out of the flow of the game, and they never could catch up.
With Brian Boucher, the NHL on TNT, Game 4, Cup final tomorrow. And, Hyman's not walking through that door. Like you said, Nugent Hopkins clearly is not at 100%. And for me, and I think for all of us, like, our focus goes to McDavid and Draisaitl, because they weren't very good the other night either, and everything was out of rhythm for the Oilers. But, how much can you expect out of them individually tomorrow night? And if you're Paul Maurice and the Panthers, it's impossible to completely neutralize them if they're on their game. But Florida does a really good job of finding a way to poke away at superstars. What do you think that's going to look like for McDavid and Draisaitl tomorrow night? What would you expect them to be, facing in terms of how Florida is going to attack them tomorrow night?
I think we're going to see more of what we saw in Game 3, where there's just very little space. Draisaitl had very little space. Aside from McDavid's first shift of Game 3, it looked like a frustrating night for him. McDavid's gotten hit twice in this series. He got hit in Game 2 in the middle of the ice. He got hit by Ekblad last game. Like, it just feels like those guys are trying, but there's just not enough behind them, the way Florida has that depth and the way that they've got such responsible players on Florida that can do it at both ends of the ice. It's committee that they can put out there. It can be Barkov, it can be Lundell, it can be Bennett, and it doesn't have to just be Forsling and Ekblad. So they've got so many different people that can shoulder the load of trying to shut those guys down. And unless Edmonton can find some depth contributions, I mean, it just feels like, I know it's exciting to watch 97 and 29 together, but it feels like they've got to do it separately, and they need more from other people in order for those guys to be effective. And yeah, you can put them together at certain times, and obviously on the power play. But if you go to it too early, I just feel like I think it's a death trap for the Oilers. I think somehow they got to get some other guys to help them out.